Hey everybody, welcome to The Mountain Gamer. Today I'm going to be doing the first of possibly many videos on Aeon's End Legacy, in which I will be doing sort of a recap of every game that I play with my group. Now you might be wondering, why aren't you just shooting a playthrough of all these games? Well, I am a French Canadian. My first language is not English, okay? And I play with two other people, my wife, who is bilingual, and a guy who lives down the street, a very good friend, but he's not Anglophone. So when we play this game, we're constantly switching back and forth from English to French and all that, and I don't see myself shooting this and trying to edit out the French bits or subtitle them and stuff like that. It would be a massive undertaking. So I thought I would do these recaps of, you know, this is how the game went down, these are the stickers we put on our guys, and these are the cards that went into the market, this is how the Nemesis works, all of that stuff. So the first thing I want to touch upon, and I will bring out the stuff eventually, but first thing you guys should know is that every character you get, because this is one of the first things you do when you look at the rules, every character you get kind of looks like this, right? They're very much blank, and all of this stuff unlocks as you play the game. Characters have a girl side and a guy side. I'm actually using the guy side underneath, and I'm not going to show you right now because I do have stickers there. But when you start the game, this is your character. And actually, all the characters are the same. Like, the artwork is different, but they all have the same thing. Like, you have one open breach, one like this, and no fourth one for now. And everybody starts with 4 crystals, 1 spark, and in their deck, 4 crystals, 1 spark. Because the idea here is, in the story, okay, so let's get into it right now. The story is like, there's a breach opened, and this big metal ball thing called Maelstrom, I'll put it up on screen, is already attacking Gravehold, and all of the breach mages that, you guys probably know and love, are already fighting this thing, okay? And now you guys are like apprentice mages, like you're not fully formed yet, you're just like newbies. You're suddenly like pulled into the fray, and you have to help out in this fight. So that's the idea. You're basically students. So you'll notice you don't even have any surges down here, and you don't have a 4th breach. And as I said, your deck is normal. You don't even have those specific starter cards with your guy's face on it with a special ability, right? That's not even in the game yet. So first, I have a criticism about that. One, okay, on the good side, if you've never played Aeon's End, this is a very good introduction to the system, because your first game is very much like a diet version of Aeon's End. Like, no surges, no special ability for your guy, only 3 breaches. So it's very much that, just learning the basic mechanisms of the game. And for that, I would say that Aeon's End Legacy is very, very good if you've never played the game. Like, to get people to play this is a good way to actually teach the game, okay? But the downside is, if you're a fan of Aeon's End, like I am, this first game kind of feels like, well, it's not even basic Aeon's End, you know? It's so light that, I don't know, it felt like a cheap way to squeeze in one more game into the Legacy campaign. I don't know, that was my feeling. But it was still fun, and I'll get to that in a second. So once you've chosen your guy or girl, you write their name here, and then you will take out the turn order cards, and you'll build your deck by, we're playing a 3-player game, right? So we've got 2 Nemesis cards, a wild, because 3 players, and then you'll pick the turn order card with your color, like I'm orange, and you'll give that person a name. My guy's name is Ramon, because we've got a big, well, the guy version has a big ram. So I thought, I'm being funny here. Ramon, you know what I mean. We got the blue character whose name is Snow, and my wife here, the green character, is Rolene. So once that's done, you'll shuffle that up, put that to the side, and then you'll set up the market and the Nemesis, so let's do that right now. So this is basically everything set up for the first game, Chapter 1, The Ordeal. You have this nifty little envelope that you get to open, and then you've got Maelstrom, and you'll notice he's got 99 life. Now, if you've never played Aeon's End before, this is crazy, okay? Usually your bad guy starts with, I don't know, 50, 60, something like that. And they'll have funky effects that make, this number worse or better, okay? But for now, seeing this as a player, I'm like, what? What does this guy do? Every once in a while, from the turn order deck, from the Nemesis deck, cards are going to say something like Unleash. I mean, they will say Unleash, and when that happens, Gravehold will suffer 3 damage. That's Gravehold. If that gets to 0, you lose, okay? If you want to win, you got to bring this guy down to 0, or you have to burn through his whole Nemesis deck. Like, survive long enough for all of his cards to come out. Those are the 2 ways you win. Either drop him to 0 or burn through this deck. Now, if you've played Aeon's End before, sorry if I'm boring you. Additionally, the game has you set up what they call the assist deck. Now, we were like, man, this is worse. I mean, not only does this Nemesis have minions, because in there, you know, you've got some bad effects and events and all that, but you've got minions, but also he's got assistants. Like, what the heck? How will we ever kill this guy? But you'll see about that. So once that's set up and everything, and then you've got your supply here, this is what the game gives you for the first mission of the campaign. So we can zoom in here if you want to look at those. So these are really your like basic meat and potatoes, I've never played the game before cards, okay? So for 3 ether or 3 money, you've got the Ancient Cyanolith, gain 2 ether. Pretty simple. For 4, you've got the Branching Radite, gain 2 ether, and if you have 2 or more prepped spells, gain an additional ether. So yeah, okay, standard stuff. The Gilded Marble costs a lot, but gains 3. We ended up not buying a lot of these, honestly. We were focusing more on buying spells because, again, he's at 99, so it was like, let's get spells prepped as soon as we can in order to shoot them off, because 99, you know what I mean? We've got 2 relics here. So for 4, you've got the Neural Wreath, focus any player's breach. Any player may prep a spell in hand, which came in handy, but again, because you're playing with these breach mages that only have 3 breaches, it felt like we bought some of that, but we weren't really using them, really. Not so much. I think we might have used this twice. Because we weren't so much focused on focusing breaches, not only because there's only 3, but also because your starting breaches here, like in regular Aeon's End, breach 3 and breach 4 always add 1 more damage when you shoot spells off of them. And in this particular game, they're all the same. Like, there's no +1 damage here. So it wasn't like, you know, usually this would come in helpful because you want somebody else to focus that 3rd one because it's more expensive to focus, and also because you have the added benefit of shooting off 1 more damage, but we didn't have that. So this was like, meh, semi-useful. This one here for 6, very expensive. Any ally draws 2 cards, which seems very powerful, but again, so darn expensive that we were using the money instead to buy some spells. So let's look at these spells. So for 2, very cheap here, Fire Chakram, deal 2 damage. I mean, we were buying a lot of these, for sure, okay, because they're so cheap. This one too, this one is pretty good. Warping Haze, cast, deal 2 damage. Okay, so same as this, but if you have 2 or more prepped, if you have 2 or more other prepped spells, deal 1 additional damage. So one of the main strategies in any game of Aeon's End is to leave those crappy spells that you have. I don't have them here, but these guys here, right? The sparks. You always start with 1 in your hand and also 1 in your deck. So what you usually do is, you know, try to keep 2 of them prepped in here so that you can now deck build. You know, you buy cards and then they come back. So you can deck build quickly by kind of getting rid temporarily of these 2 sparks by leaving them up here, right? So because we were leaving these sparks up on top, this came in handy because you would deal 2 and an additional 1 if you have spells prepped. So it did come in handy a few times. I think the best one was probably, well, it's these 2 for sure. So see here for 4, Incinerating Fist, deal 3 damage. That's just, it's gonna deal 3 damage. Fantastic. And it's not expensive, right? I mean, you get 2 of these out, you just paid for this. So boom, it's done. Number 5 here for 5 ether, Gravity Node. Any player discards a card in hand. If they do, deal 4 damage. Actually, this came in handy. Yeah, I just remembered this was way more handy than this. When I think about, you know, when I think back, yeah, this came in really, really handy. They are a little bit expensive, but I mean, 4 damage is pretty good. And there are some minions in there, so that turned out to sometimes kill a minion right off the bat or you know, do almost all of the damage to that minion just by using that card. So if we look at some of these Nemesis cards here, now I didn't put these back in the original order. I mean, I did separate them by Act 1, 2, and 3, but there are some special cards that come out that tell you to remove some of these cards and stuff like that. But for the main part, this is what's going on here. So we've got stuff like, you know, Raining Daggers. Any player suffers 4 damage. If you want to get rid of it, spend 4 ether. It's your basic Aeon's End stuff, right? Here you go, a little minion here for 3. Like I said, you buy one of those gravity nodes, you'll kill it just like that. Any player suffers 2 damage. So it's really, really basic stuff. See, this is one of those cards that says if you're playing with 1, 2, or 3 players, discard the top, let's say 2 cards, because we're playing with 3 from the Nemesis deck respectively. Because they want you to burn through this thing faster, I guess, or maybe it gets rid of bigger monsters. I didn't really check. And then draw a new Nemesis card. So you'll do that. And then you'll unleash, so Gravehold suffers 3 damage. So again, very basic stuff, and it's all about teaching players what you can let slide, basically. Like, specifically when you get to those, like, should we actually spend $4 so that, you know, nobody suffers 4 damage? Or should we just let this thing slide and keep our money to buy some really funky spells? And usually that's what you should do. You know, your health and Gravehold's life and all of that stuff is resources that you should spend, you know, judiciously, just as you would money, right? So instead of spending money, use that money to buy something else and spend life, you know? So that's what that's for, I think. And then you'll get to eventually an assist card, because you keep playing and playing and playing, and then you're doing like, you know, 3 damage and 4 damage and 5 damage. And it's like, we will never get this thing down to 99. And remember, every time that this guy unleash, Gravehold suffers 3 damage. So I would say that after the first third of the game, we were feeling pretty bad, like already, because this was down to maybe, I don't know, close to 20, and we had done maybe 10 damage here. So it's like, how the heck will we win against this thing? And that's when the game throws you an assist. Turns out the assist cards are for us. This is the fight that's going on while we are kind of backing it up with our, you know, crappy, inexperienced selves. So every once in a while you'll get a card like this. Like, let's read this here. Mist's Fury. The battle rages on and the air is filled with ash, clouding your vision. Suddenly, Mist whips a lava tendril from the fog, striking the Nameless hard enough to crack its outer shell. Mist deals 10 damage to Maelstrom. Boom. So this deck is actually full of these things. So you're basically playing, you know, just trying to keep Gravehold alive long enough for these to come out and finish off Maelstrom. And it's thematic. I mean, that's what the story is setting up, right? It's a big battle is raging against this, you know, Death Star, and you're just there trying to hold things together while the kick-ass mages do their job, right? But one of the tough things with this scenario is there's no actual way in the supply cards to boost a Gravehold's life, because if you've played Aeon's End before, you know that you've got some relics that do that, but we don't have access to that at all. So this, I would say by the end, like, we won, okay? And this got pretty easy because every, I don't know, every 4 or 5 of these, you get an assist come out and it'll deal 10. So I think by the end, I don't know, we probably had 5 or 6 of these left, and they had done probably like 40 damage to this thing. And by the end, we are the ones who dealt, you know, like the death blow to this thing. But Gravehold was like at 7, I think, which is pretty close, you know, pretty, yeah, like cutting it close to the wire type of situation. So all in all, even though we started to feel the mechanism of, okay, this is a teaching game and these guys will do most of the work, it still did feel tight. Like, it didn't feel like a cheat, like, oh, it's okay, we're gonna survive. Not so much. We thought Gravehold was gonna die, and we actually thought our dudes, we thought they might exhaust. Like, I think I was down to 1 or 2 life. I mean, when you exhaust, it's not the end of the world. I think you unleash twice, but I mean, if you unleash twice, it's 3 and 3, 6. this, you know, gets down pretty fast. So it was pretty close, so I did enjoy that game, but like I said, it's very much a teaching game in which you're just trying to survive, and the way that you do that is, let's just try and get some of these big spells and just, you know, get it down as quick as we can, because if we don't do that fast enough, then one of us will, you know, get exhausted, and then this is gonna drop. So it's, like I said, a regular game of Aeon's End, just very streamlined, pared down, and I like the way that it makes you feel like the odds are impossible for a good part of the game, and then you just start to see these guys, you know, fight it out and help you, and you're like, oh, thank God these guys are there, because if not, it would have been the end of everything. So once the scenario was over and this dude was down to 0, you would remove him. Well, you keep this for later games, but you remove him and completely remove him from the game. This deck also, this is the whole Maelstrom deck. This would, you know, essentially never come back. You get rid of the assist. Gravehold you keep for later. And then we opened this fancy little box here, in which we found 4 more stacks of cards to put in the supply. So we had a gem, we had a relic, and 2 more spells. Now I'm gonna zoom in here so you can see what they are. I've just rearranged them here so you can see, let's say, the new gem, okay, compared to these 3. So this one costs 5, it's a crumbling compound, gain 2 ether, you may discard a gem in hand. If you do, gain an additional 2 ether, which is pretty good. Now, let's go through all the new ones, and then I'll tell you what the game asks you to do, okay? So as far as the relic, it's this one here, the Geophage, costs 3, gain 1 ether, you may destroy a gem in hand. So this is to start culling your deck or trashing cards, which is always a useful thing. Let's go to the spells down here. So they gave us another 3 spell here, Breach Flare, cast, deal 2 damage, focus any player's 3 breach. Which, again, at this stage of the game, didn't seem like a super, you know, good idea. It is more expensive to focus the 3rd one, but there isn't really any advantage to focusing the 3rd one or the 2nd one. So we weren't too crazy about this one. And last but not least, here, let's just put it on top here, the Bending Beam for 5. You deal 2 damage, and if this spell was cast from an opened 3 breach, deal 3 additional damage. Essentially, if you want to use this one, you pretty much have to use this one as well, right? You kind of have to buy both and use them in conjunction with each other, because it is, you know, it takes a long time to open that number 3 breach, so you'll probably use this to combo this together. This is actually a nice combo. I don't think we even realized how much of a good combo that is, because yeah, I'll talk about that later if I remember things correctly. And then the game tells you, replace 2 supply piles in the current supply with upgrade supply piles of the same type. So you can replace 2, but you need to respect this whole thing of having 3 gems, 2 relics, and 4 spells. So, what did we keep? So after much deliberation, we decided to eliminate Ethereal Hand, which allows an ally to draw 2 cards, because obviously, not obviously, but I mean, it was too expensive for what it did, for us anyway. So we got rid of that. So this actually goes back in the box in a pile that they call banished supply cards. I guess when you're done with the campaign, you can take all of this stuff back and use them, you know, in your expansions, or I mean, as an expansion in your regular games. So anyway, we took away this and we replaced the relic with Geophage, which is gain an ether, but it was, you may destroy a gem in hand. This is what we actually liked. Because all 3 of us are, you know, we're big fans of Star Realms and a lot of deck builders, and we know that trashing cards is something that you want to do. So this was important to us. So we bought this. So this is the new one. I'll put it like this. And then as far as a second pile to get rid of, I believe we took away this one here. Okay. Yes, it's cheap, but it only does 2. This one costs just 1 more, and it still does 2, and might do 3. So we're like, okay, this is going to become our new cheap spell, right? So we got rid of this. And then we took this guy here. Now he's very expensive, but as you've seen here, it's 2 damage, but 3 additional damage if it's shot out of a number 3 breach. And we thought that this was an okay combo with our girl here, who actually helps to focus breaches. So it was like, okay, if we can get her to work alongside him, that would be cool. So these were the new 2 additions. And the rest we just, like I said, discarded and put back in the box in the banished supply cards. Next, the game gave us some envelopes to open, and we could now, well, they gave us this thing. Some stickers are missing, of course, but what this enabled us to do is to remove one of these stickers and actually put them on a character card that they now give us. So not only do you have your normal starting deck, but you now have one of these cards, which is a starter card with a little S here, and you would pick one of these powers and you'd stick it on your card. So my dude here, Ramon, got a special gem. So every time I play this, I would gain 1 ether, and if you have 3 or more open breaches, gain 1 life. So essentially, I was like, okay, I'm a big guy, I'm a tank. I'm gonna become the guy who, when the Nemesis card comes out that says something like any player suffers 2 damage, well, I will take that damage, because every once in a while, I'll be probably able to, boost myself and gain a life. So I became that guy. So let's look at the my other players and what they took. So my wife was playing as the Legolas. Well, she's playing as the lady version, but I don't want to flip this over because we have some stickers on there for now, and I don't want to show you that for now. But she's playing as this Legolas type of character. And she got here, gem, gain 1 ether. You may cast one of your prepped spells that costs 4 or less. Now the advantage with this is, because in the turn order, it's the casting phase, so your spells, shoot off, and then you get to play some cards. But this is cool because you can now cast your spells, and then prep some spells, and then play this to shoot them off. So essentially breaking the action order that is, inherent to the game. So she really liked this. And lastly, my other friend here, he's got this wizardy snowflake type of person. They have the boy version, of course. Well, of course, I'm playing with the guy. He took the guy version. And this is what he took, a spell. So plug it in and cast it to deal 1 damage. And if your discard pile contains 4 or more other cards, deal 2 additional damage. So yeah, this seemed like a good idea at the time. Turned out it didn't work a lot, and I'll get to that in game number 2. So this is what happened at the end of game 1. And that's cool. I mean, putting stickers on these things is always fun. And now your character slowly starts to feel like someone, you're getting formed, it just feels different than the other players, Like I'm the guy who can take the hits, and my wife has the dude or the dudette who can shoot stuff out of turn, and you start to feel like you're building your character, and that's pretty cool. One other thing that I didn't mention is when you do get these cards, you're supposed to give them a name. Like, I don't know, you'd call it like Frozen Potato Blast. And then you put a sticker on top here that says that your starting hand has 1 Frozen Potato Blast, 3 Crystal, and 1 Spark. We didn't give them names right away because, I don't know, we weren't in the mood. But just so you know, you can actually write on this and write here as well. So that's it. That was the end of game 1. So we fought a big monster, we got some assistance from the Breach Mages, and we got some powers and some new cards. So there you go. Now, if you like this type of video, tell me about it, okay? You need to click like, and you need to actually tell me, keep doing those. Because, if nobody watches this stuff, then I'm not going to keep doing it. This isn't for me. This is strictly for people who want to know what's in the box and, like this type of stuff. So there you go. Click like, subscribe, all that jazz. Let me know what you think, and I will see you guys on the next one. And if you want some more videos, YouTube thinks you might like the one on the left. I personally think you might enjoy the one on the right. And if you want to make sure to never miss any of my videos, I would ask you to click the middle button here to, of course, subscribe. Potato, boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew.